Assalamu alaikum everyone. How are you? Last week we talked about the Holocaust and how many Germans believed the lies that Hitler told about Jews, communists, and other people who were not of an Aryan race. Why, you might ask? Because Hitler had a strong and effective propaganda machine. Can you recall what the word propaganda means? Propaganda is an effective and powerful tool used by governments to communicate and spread information to the public. However, propaganda usually is one-sided and is not telling the truth, and tends to attack someone that the government sees as an enemy, and they play on public emotions. Basically, propaganda is dangerous, especially when it is wielded by someone who knows how to use it effectively. Hitler had found that person. His right-hand man, Joseph Goebbels, was so good at spreading propaganda to the German public that Hitler even made a Ministry of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda for him to head. Germany's newspapers were no longer free. They were now under Goebbels' ministry, who told them what could or could not be written and published. Journalists and editors were threatened with punishment, a lost position, and even imprisonment should they go against the ministry's orders. So you would read stories praising the Nazis while insulting Jews in the German newspapers, Der Angriff or Der Stürmer, during that time. But the ministry did not only control the news that people read or hear. As you can recall, they controlled the songs that people listened to and the shows that people watched. As you know, American music like jazz and swing were banned. People were encouraged to listen to the works of German composers such as Hitler's personal favorite, Wagner or Beethoven. Germans were bombarded with images that show Jews, communists, gypsies in the most negative light. Germans watched the film Eternal Jew, which tells the tale of the evil Jew.
Here at the Wailing Wall, they gather and mourn the fall of Jerusalem. Their homelessness, though, is a matter of choice, and in keeping with their entire history. 4,000 years ago.
If hating the Jews were not enough, they can then watch Hinterjunge Quecks, about a Hitler Youth boy who was killed by the communists.
Was hat das gelernt, was?
Nun lass doch den Jungen, ja, der will es
Was heißt das so, wenn hier was gesungen wird? Dann singst du. Völker hört die Signale auf zum letzten auf zum letzten Gefecht.
All in all, about 1,000 films were created during the Nazi government, from rom-coms to political thrillers, all giving praise to Nazis and the Aryans while painting a negative image and inciting hatred towards non-Aryans, calling them things like aliens or parasites. Speaking of images, do you recall how Hitler was actually a budding artist? Well, one way in which propaganda was used was in art. Goebbels had organized 2 art exhibitions, one called the German Art Show, which celebrated the statuesque Aryan body and great German soldier, to be awed and praised. And another, just down the street, was the Degenerate Art Show, where abstract and expressionist art were hung askew and placed carelessly in order to be insulted and mocked by the public. Goebbels knew that he had to influence the public further. So all radio stations were also under the control of Goebbels' ministry. Hitler ensured that almost every German household had a radio. But this radio can never pick up foreign channels because the Germans created and mass-produced cheap radios called the People's Receiver. No radio? Don't worry. Loudspeakers were placed in various public spaces so people could always hear propaganda messages and Hitler's speeches. Even his speeches were tightly controlled. He would practice his hand gestures and delivery of speech in order to achieve maximum drama and effectiveness. The contents of the speech were also different based on who he was speaking to. Hitler had transformed himself into a tremendously articulate and believable propaganda tool. In fact, even his birthday was made into a national holiday and his book, Mein Kampf, gifted to every newlywed and soldier. If that was not enough Hitler for you, then the Germans can also watch the film Triumph of the Will that celebrates Hitler's fearlessness.
Das deutsche Volk ist glücklich in dem Bewusstsein, dass die ewige Flucht der Erscheinungen nunmehr endgültig abgelöst wurde von einem ruhenden Pol. Der sich als Träger seines besten Blutes fühlen und dieses wissend zur Führung der Nation erhoben hat und entschlossen ist, diese Führung zu behalten, wahrzunehmen und nicht mehr abzugeben.
However, you see, propaganda was not only a way to influence the German people to support the Nazis and hate towards non-Aryans, an undying support for Hitler and the Nazis. It was also a way to garner support for the war. Germany would soon wage a war against Europe and needed the support of its people. As you do the activities assigned by teacher Nashra and me, think about how Hitler has assured that every single thing becomes aligned in order for him to start World War II. Thank you.